folks, how you doing? How you feeling? Welcome to this week's episode of Search and Report. I'm your host, True Fernie, and today I want to talk about this cool watch, man. I got a fitness watch. I'm on my I'm on my fitness journey. I've been cycling for over a year now, like seriously. Done a couple of rallies, a few races. Well, not really races, but mostly rallies. The only person I'm racing is myself. And I've also signed up for the Kyoto Marathon. And if you remember the last Nintendo Direct, Nintendo announced that they're going to be a major. I think they're the biggest sponsor of the Kyoto Marathon, and I just had to do it, man. Like I'm already on this fitness journey. I was like, what better way to celebrate like the video game company that truly marked my childhood. Like this is incredible. This is momentous. So I signed up. I'm still a little bit iffy or confused as to whether I'm actually officially signed up. Like I'm gonna get a bib and everything. But regardless, tickets are bought. We still haven't found hotels and stuff, but at least we're going. So regardless if I get into the marathon or not, I'm still training for it. I'm still taking, this fitness journey pretty seriously. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for that. Marathon, 26 miles, man. That's tough. I've done 100 miles on a bike twice already this year. And the other day I did 5 miles running, and oh my God, bro, like it does not compare. Like running is way tougher in my opinion, but it is what it is. But for this first topic that do want to talk about, I was going to talk about what I have been playing, but it's been most of the same. I'm still playing Silksong. I kind of hit a few walls that have been really hard to get through in terms of like difficulty. It's just been really, really hard to get through certain rooms. And it's really testing my patience. I'm not saying it's impossible to beat, but I'm a very impatient person, and it has kind of forced me to take the game a little bit more slower, to explore a little bit more, to kind of put the game down and take a break on it, and then come back to it. So in that way, it is a good game design in that way. I'm not gonna talk bad about it. I'm not gonna knock off points off of it. I might do a full length review on it. I'm not entirely sure because a lot of people didn't like my first impressions, even though I completely gave this. I gave this game the Game of the Year nomination, personal nomination, and people are still upset that I had complaints about the game. Like, do you guys expect to every single game to be perfect? Like, for a game to be Game of the Year, it does not have to be perfect. No, it's all subjective. It's a popularity contest at the end of the day, but it's also subjective. Like what you find exciting in a game, what you find engaging in a game, what you like in a game is going to be completely different to the person right next to you. But still, because I had a few things to complain about the game, they weren't even like complaints, to be honest. They were critiques. Like, they were good fake critiques. I got a lot of comments in there telling me all sorts of things. But I understand, people have been waiting 7 years for this game. People tied their personalities into this game. They held it close to their hearts. So any criticism, they might take offense to it. I fully understand that. I'm a Zelda fan, like believe me. But still, that's kind of led me to question whether I want to do a review or not. Because if there's just so much lore behind the Hollow Knight series, there's so many things that I just didn't quite grasp when I first played Hollow Knight. And now that I'm playing Silksong, honestly, the story to me hasn't really been engaging in the same way that, for example, for me, Legend of Zelda is going to be. So it's just, I don't know. It's kind of soured my expectations in terms of this game, but I'm still going to try and beat it. I do want to beat this game, at least the story. I'm not entirely, I don't care about 100%ing this game, but we'll see. And I've been playing Skate, but there might be less Skate playing involved in the future. And that's a perfect segue into my first news item of the week. Saudi Arabia has bought EA. Let's get into it. For our first news item of the week, EA is bought out by Saudi Arabia. Jared Kushner, Saudi Arabia, and more backers to buy EA in a $55 billion deal. What does this mean for gamers? USA Today here reports from Greta Cross. Saudi Arabia is looking to diversify its investments outside of oil, which is why it is interested in acquiring Electronic Arts. Orange Man's son-in-law, quote unquote, that's not the reporter, that was me. Saudi Arabia's government and other backers are closing in on a $55 billion deal to purchase the video game company responsible for developing and publishing popular game franchises like The Sims, Madden NFL, and Battlefield. EA announced on Monday, September 29th, that it will be privately acquired by Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund, Silver Lake, and Affinity Partners during the 2027 fiscal year. The latter of the investors, Affinity Partners, was founded by Jared Kushner, Trump's son-in-law, who is married to Trump's eldest daughter, Ivanka Trump. Jesus. Upon the finalization of the acquisition, EA will remain headquartered in Redwood City, California, and Andrew Wilson will continue to serve as its CEO. The acquisition comes less than a month before the release of EA's highly anticipated Battlefield 6, set to release on October 10th. Yada yada. Here's what to know. How will this impact gamers? This acquisition will not be finalized until the 2027 fiscal year, which begins in April 2026. Until then, EA customers should expect no changes to the company. However, there are speculation that having, Saudi Arabia, which, we all know is a fairly controversial country, much like America is, in the Middle East, in the global scale, specifically in terms of, I'm not going to get into the weeds of why Saudi Arabia is probably the worst company to have a public investment in a gaming company. But just look up what they do to reporters, and just look up, what they do in the global scale. I mean, I'm not saying that America is in any way, shape, or form any better, but my God, like having, people involved so closely with this government and with the Saudi government owning such a huge company, gaming company such as EA, Electronic Arts, a company that's been around since gaming really started to become a household item. Gaming consoles started to become a household item, is worrisome. It for a multitude of reasons, which I'm not going to get into, but it is a major news story. EA is now partially owned by the Saudi, public investment fund, which is, again, EA is already in the trenches, is already pretty low in the tier list of ethical and, good developers in a way. But it raises eyebrows when you see a government as conservative and as strict as the Saudi government being directly involved with a developer that does skateboarding, does video games for Sims, where you can live your life as, it's a life simulator where there's relationships that might not fall into the lifestyle or the religious practices of a country such as Saudi Arabia. It raises questions as to whether this is going to be a further hunkering and a further capture of media in America, and making it so there's less opportunity to try and vocalize and try to showcase and try to represent ideas and lifestyles that are the complete opposite to what conservative governments usually think of, quote unquote, normal and acceptable. So it's both bad and it's both concerning. Either way, I don't think I'm playing EA Skate for that much longer, to be honest. At least not till April 2026. Like or I already have my issues with Skate. I already have my issues with EA as a company as a whole. But this further cements, my decision to completely forgo EA games. Like going forward, there's no reason for me to be involved in this developer. And again, Nintendo, same. Nintendo has um uh has Saudi money invested in the company. That's been known for a while. I have my issues with it. I've kind of been dealing with it, and it's sort of becoming a little bit tougher to try and hold onto your ideals of what you want out of your media, your entertainment, and at the same time try not to like completely become a recluse and completely just not engage in any sort of entertainment. Like obviously you have to be critical as a consumer. You have to be critical about these things and what you're funding indirectly or directly with your money and your purchasing power. But it's becoming increasingly tough to be a person who does not hold certain values or who does not tend to care about the things that the owners of said companies and said developers are pushing through in a way. Regardless, huge acquisition. $55 billion is an insane deal. That's a lot of money, and apparently half of it is debt. It's just debt that now they've taken on. Um, Again, telling me that the economy and finances are completely made up, because it's incredible what you can do with debt and how rich people can just throw around credit and acquire these huge companies and acquire these assets with not actual capital, just numbers on a computer. It's just insane to me, the world that we live in. But yeah, that's the news story. We'll have to see how this further either cripples or quote unquote financially helps EA in the long term. But I know that with these acquisitions, there's going to be mass layoffs. Like I know people in EA that work in EA are already concerned about this. The industry is already predicting that this is going to have very grave consequences for the people inside of EA. Um, and again, like this is all speculation, but I just think that this is a path that we're following or we're following through as a society as a whole. America, the world, that is becoming a little bit more intolerant of certain ideas, and it's trying to claw its way into media, into entertainment, into trying to force these values throughout. Again, a conversation for another video, something that I think about thoroughly and something that I really um, think about every single day. But whatever. Now, for our second news item of the week is one that, again, this is going to be a truly like socio-political episode right off the bat. I should have probably set that up at the beginning of the episode, but it is rather concerning, the trend that I already spoke about that we're falling into, and how video game companies, whether they like it or not, are going to be roped into these conversations, especially with the way that this administration here in the US is handling itself, and it's handling its comms, it's handling its social media. As a company, nowadays, you cannot afford to be silent on what you stand for as a company, as an organization, and especially a company such as Nintendo and Pokemon. A company that produces a product, produces an idea, and in a way produces a safe space for children, adults in general, to escape from the realities of the world, this increasingly cruel world. You have to take a stand. I know that these sort of things, lawsuits, statements, PR statements, take a long time. But when you sort of don't address the issue, or you kind of let people communicate for you, or take your idea or your what do you call it, your property, and use it for their own agendas and for their own, messages, if you don't do anything and if you act in a passive way, they'll be able to dictate how people see your brand, how people see your company, how people see what you stand for, regardless of whether you took a stand or not. You have to be proactive in ensuring that the bullies, in a way, they are bullies, don't take that power over you. Don't take that power from you. And Nintendo, in a way, I know this takes a while, but Nintendo, in a way, is kind of letting it happen. But here, Pokemon responded to a DHS, the Department of Homeland Security's use of Ash Ketchum and the Pokemon series theme tune. They said that the permission was not granted for the use of their intellectual property. This is an IGN article from Tom Phillips, and there has been an update. They did formally respond to the use of Pokemon TV hero Ash Ketchum in the series theme tune by the DHS as part of a video showing people being arrested and handcuffed by law enforcement agents. This is their statement. We are aware of a recent video posted by the DHS that includes imagery and language associated with our brand. The Pokemon Company International said in the statement shared with IGN, our company was not involved in the creation or distribution of this content, and permission was not granted for use of our intellectual property. Many fans have suggested that the Pokemon Company should defend its intellectual property by launching legal action. However, the corporation's former legal chief yesterday told IGN that he wouldn't touch this. More on that below. The Pokemon Company's former chief legal officer has said he would not take action over an official Department of Homeland Security video that features footage of people being handcuffed and arrested set to the Pokemon themed tune, despite calls for fans for the corporation to sue. The video, which was posted on social media this week, mixes blurred footage of law enforcement officers and dozens of people in handcuffs with clips from the animated Pokemon TV series. The post is titled Gotta Catch 'em All, linking the Pokemon franchise's famous slogan with the controversial current wave of arrests by ICE personnel. Reactions to the video on X are mixed, with numerous comments tagging the official Pokemon and Nintendo of America accounts to flag the content and call for the companies to launch legal action over the use of their intellectual property. But Don McGowan, Pokemon's veteran ex-legal chief, has told IGN he believes any such action is highly unlikely and listed numerous reasons why. First, think of how little you see the Pokemon Company's International's name in the press. They're insanely publicity shy and prefer to let the brand be the brand. Second, many of their execs in the US are on green cards. Even if I was still at the company, I wouldn't touch this, and I'm the most trigger happy CLO, chief legal officer, I've ever met. This will blow over in a couple of days and they'll be happy to let it. For some fans, if no action is indeed taken, TPC, Pokemon Company's lack of response here may likely seem surprising considering the highly litigious nature of the corporation in other instances. Indeed, McGowan has spoken in the past of swinging into action after spotting the unauthorized use of Pokemon intellectual property being reported by the media. TPC could simply lodge a copyright complaint against the post itself, as rapper Jay-Z successfully did back in August when his track public service announcement was titled Hunt Cartel's Save America is still online, though the video is no longer accessible in response to a report by the copyright owner. There's certainly no doubting the extensive use of the Pokemon brand in the video, as well as featuring its classic theme tune. The post also includes the clips from the Pokemon anime featuring former main character Ash Ketchum and ends with a parade of convicted criminals turned into Pokemon cards with their type weakness shown as Ice type. I got a lot of flack for criticizing Pokemon in certain circles. I understand these things take time, but when the easiest thing is to submit a copyright strike and make it so they can't use your brand and they can't use your intellectual property is the bare minimum. Okay? This thing is still up. This post is still up. It's been up since September 22nd. That's been well over a week. And Pokemon's inability to even do anything about it. I understand they're trying to protect their workers in America, but let's be honest. If there's one thing this administration does not care about, is process. They do not care about people's legality within these made up lines that we made for countries. If that were the case, they wouldn't have raided the Hyundai plant in Alabama, where South Korean workers were there legally. They wouldn't be arresting folks, detaining folks just based on what they look like. They wouldn't be doing these things. Okay? Pokemon's inaction in a way, and them not saying much, not even doing the bare minimum by submitting a copyright claim for something that you clearly own. And yes, you can say fair use and whatnot, yada yada. There has to be like some sort of action. You can do a press release to calm people in a way, but when you allow, I've said this multiple times already, when you allow bullies to do whatever they want with things that are under your control and under your power, they will continue to do it. And if you give in to their demands, as we've seen with like a certain comedian being taken off air, the bullies have already won. They're just testing how far they can push that boundary. Pokemon not taking a stand and just being like the corporate part of things and being like, oh no, like we didn't give them permission. Of course you didn't give them permission. What are you talking about? Do something about it, you know? And again, this is me being sort of attaching a morality, attaching ethics to a multi-billion global company. I understand what I'm doing and what I'm expecting from, you know? It's just disappointing to see how little action from a beloved franchise, a franchise that I grew up with, a franchise that marked so many years of me growing up with the Game Boy games. A, a corporation that created a safe space for me growing up, you know, where I could escape the many issues that I faced as a child. Uh, not taking action to protect that space, to really understand, even if you take out all the emotion out of it and you just look at it from a brand perspective, from a PR perspective, you not taking a stand speaks volumes, man. We are in a highly politicized world. Nowadays, the average person is more passionate about their ideals, about their ideologies, about their ethics, about their principles. Like you see it all over social media. You see it especially in the gaming community. People are more vocal about what they find of what they value, right? And where the company and what companies they invest their money in. I mean, you've seen it over the past week with people in droves canceling their Disney Plus subscriptions, canceling their Hulu subscriptions, canceling anything tied to what happened to Jimmy Kimmel in a way. And even then, when Jimmy Kimmel was brought on back on, many people just did not resubscribe. Like, we're at a point in time where people are more well informed, people are more aware of what their money funds, people ask more questions, and people expect way more from the companies that they hold very close and dear to their heart. And especially with Pokemon, this brand is so tied to people's emotions, to people's childhood. And these are people that are at voting age. These are people that are well versed and well attached, or well connected to what's going on politically, man. This administration's tactics, politics are provable to be unpopular, and corporations need to understand that they need to find the courage to willfully and just straight out, like, just deny and detach themselves and not be afraid to be aggressive with their ideals, man, because the pendulum swings back. It always does. It always does. And you as a brand don't want to find yourself on the other side of that pendulum and be like, oh shit, I didn't do anything. Why are people not coming back to me? Why are people not yada yada? As a little credit that we like to give, gamers, at least in those circles that I work around and I'm around, people tend to not forget these sort of things. People tend to be very, very vocal about their ideals, myself included, to the point where I'm probably not gonna get Pokemon Legends ZA after this. Like, and it's depressing. And again, get me off my soapbox. I know I'm over here preaching. I know I'm virtual signaling in a way, but these things are very close to my heart. Like, I come from a family of immigrants. I'm Mexican American. Like, these are things that truly affect the people around me, my friends, my family, the people in my community. I've seen it happen. Like, I just, it it boggles my mind that some people can be so for everything on one end, you know, social justice, bringing attention to things happening around the world, being, very aware of those injustices, genocide, war, everything happening around the world. But when this sort of stuff happens within our four borders, so to speak, that same person that cares so much about things happening on the other side of the world just shuts it off here. Like, we need to detach ourselves from the emotion, from these attachments that we have to these faceless corporations, because in a way I do believe that the average American is too emotionally attached to these corporations, myself included, which is, well, again, I want to drive the point. I don't expect Pokemon to be a beacon of hope. They're a corporation through and through. Like, I understand what they are. It's just disappointing with how weak this company has been in the face of this, when they will not bat an eye at completely ruining a single person's life over something like piracy, over something like copyright. You know how they'll just turn around and, like, just do the most to really try and ruin other people in a way and protect their IP, but then they'll, like, ah, ugh, I don't know about that. Ugh, I'm a little bit scared. Ugh. Bro, you have more money than this government at this point, because we're trillions of dollars in debt. It's just disappointing. It's just disappointing. And again, this is a corporation. I understand their sole goal and their sole mission is profit over everything. It still sucks that this is the stance that Pokemon decides to take or not take, because essentially all they did was publish a statement. That's it. It's been over a week. No copyright claim, not even to bring that down. Again, you can't really expect much from this administration. They don't really follow the rules. They don't believe in process. Even if you do submit a copyright claim, they're probably not going to care, And I understand that. I understand that. Again, my main point here is that Pokemon's response is disappointing. That's it. That's all I'm saying. But that's the reality we live in. For my last news item of this week, I want to talk about a Nintendo news, which, again, seems like I've been talking about Nintendo this whole podcast. We got a new president for Nintendo of America. Doug Bowser has announced his retirement. Doug Bowser, if you didn't know, very ironic last name. We all know that. He's been the Nintendo of America president since Reggie Fils-Aimé retired, or I didn't think he retired. I think he's still working, but he left the company for a few years now. And yeah, he announced his retirement. And he has already been replaced. Well, he's going to be replaced at the end of this year by Devin Pritchard, who's been at Nintendo of America for 19 years, and she is currently the executive vice president of sales, marketing, and communications. As part of the move, Pritchard. Oh, by the way, this is Nintendo Live reporting by Alana Hagues. I hope I'm saying that right. She'll be also joining the NOA board of directors and will become a Nintendo Co. Ltd. executive officer when she takes over. Some other changings are also coming. Satoru Shibata will be taking over as CEO in addition to maintaining his position as the managing executive officer and corporate director of NCL. Shibata has been the president of Nintendo of Europe and Nintendo of Australia previously. Bowser's departure is a bit of a surprise to us. He joined the company back in 2015 as a vice president of sales and marketing before taking over as president of NOA in April 2019. This is Doug Bowser's statement. One of my earliest video game experiences was playing the arcade version of Donkey Kong. Since that time, all things Nintendo have continued to be a passion for both me and my family. Leading Nintendo of America has been the honor of a lifetime, and I am proud of what our team has accomplished in both business results and the experiences we created for consumers. Such corporate speak. Now, it's time for the next generation of leadership, and Devon's track record speaks for itself. She's an exceptional leader, and her promotion is a testament to her strong performance and strategic contributions to the company's growth. I have full confidence that she will guide the company to even greater heights. Shuntaro Furukawa, the president of Nintendo, has thanked Bowser for his work within the company, saying that he brought smiles to the faces of people connected to Nintendo. Very exciting time for a, Nintendo in a way, I guess. But who is Devon Pritchard? Pritchard. Am I saying that right? Devon? She is the next NOA president stepping into Bowser's boots. Here's Nintendo Live reporting by Jim Norman. She has been a longtime NOA executive, 19 years, as we already said. But this will be NOA's first female president. Very, very exciting. She's been around for such a long time. She joined Nintendo of America in 2006, heading up the subsidiary's legal department as its presidency changed from Kimishima to Reggie Fils-Aimé. She would go on to take leadership roles in the company's marketing, business affairs, and publisher relations sectors before landing her current title of NOA's Executive Vice President of Revenue, Marketing, and Consumer Experience in 2021. Why is this important to note? Well, because it follows a similar pattern to what we have seen with NOA's presidential promotions in the past. Let's not forget both Bowser and Reggie's NOA careers starting in the sales and marketing departments, of which they were both vice presidents. And Kimishima came to the role off the back of his work in Pokémon finances. If you want a new NOA president, you look to the internal marketing and finance departments first. That makes sense. They're the ones who understand the company both financially and from a consumer perspective. That's usually the case for a lot of companies, by the way, if you ever worked in corporate America. With all that background, it'll come as no surprise that Devon knows her legal onions. She became a doctor of law at the Gonzaga University School of Law in 2001, and before that, got a bachelor's degree in biological sciences from Kansas State University. While at Kansas State, she played on the university volleyball team. So, the revival of the Can Super Mario Sparkies then. Yeah, sure. Agreebon Gaming. It's somewhat counterintuitive, but being the most diehard capital G gamer isn't necessarily a prerequisite to being the Nintendo of America president. Everybody knows that, you know. There was a Kid and Krista video that spoke on her and her gaming habits. Both of these employees, Kid and Krista, they worked closely with the soon-to-be president during their tenure at the company. And while they agreed that she's far from a hardcore gamer, they were quick to point out that she knows Nintendo. She definitely loves Nintendo, Krista stated. Like all of us, she has these childhood memories of connecting. Yada, yada, yada. We understand that. She's a Pikmin fan, so that's cool. That's fine. That's all and good. That's exciting for Nintendo, I guess, in a way. But I want to really point out how uneventful Bowser was. And again, I don't expect NOA, president to be this sort of like meme guy like Reggie Fils-Aimé was. But NOA is just a marketing department for Nintendo as a whole within America. They don't necessarily do the big decisions when it comes to releasing games. They don't necessarily develop games within NOA. They have studios here in America, of course, but they are just the branch. They are the marketing arm in a way. So it was really kind of mind-boggling to me in a way that Doug Bowser wasn't really that camera forward or very like present in his tenure at NOA. Which again, Reggie Fils-Aimé kind of changed that and kind of set that precedent. But again, it's not something that you expect, but it's just something that in my opinion, man, if I was the president of Nintendo of America, I'd be trying my hardest, man, to really drive that brand awareness in a way, that quirkiness that Nintendo games have in a way, and just really try and make that, make that a statement in a way. So, yeah, I mean, shout out to Doug Bowser. What am I going to say? I don't know this man. So, it is what it is. But we have the first female president for Nintendo of America, not Nintendo as a whole. But, folks, that's all it's been for Search and Report. I'm going to go to the main camera now. But, folks, I've been True Fernie. This has been Search and Report. If you like this video, if you're watching the video version over on YouTube, make sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel at True Fernie. If you didn't like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs down, because believe it or not, every single bit helps. If you're listening to us on your favorite, podcast, whatever app, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever it may be, make sure to follow us, make sure to review us, make sure to rate us, because that helps us a lot on the algorithm. And tell a friend. Share this show with a friend, with a family, someone who might enjoy gaming news. And again, folks, make sure to follow me on my social media stuff. I spend most of my waking hours, not as much anymore. I'm trying to really cut back on my social media presence. Not being out there, but like usage, not presence, usage. But still, follow me on Blue Sky, where I spend most of my waking hours talking about gaming, talk about anything and everything that might interest you as my viewer, especially crazy ass stuff that's happening around the world. At True Fernie, all my links are down below. But folks, please take care of one another, but most importantly, take care of yourself and stand up for what's right, man. Like, regardless, like, really, really understand that your voice matters, and that you shouldn't sacrifice or compromise your voice and your body for anybody else. And don't let people tell you how to live. Don't let people to tell you how to think, and always stand up for what's right for other people, for those less fortunate, for those that are unprotected and are most vulnerable in our societies. Stand up for them, man. That's all I'm gonna say. Peace.